Darius Acuff Jr. is putting up the kind of numbers that make people stop scrolling and start arguing.
There's no fear when he has the ball going downhill. None.
He's a freshman, he's in the SEC, and he's averaging 22.2 points and 6.2 assists per game on basically 50% shooting. So the question is not whether he's talented, the question is how good is Darius Acuff Jr. actually? Is he just a hot freshman scorer putting together a crazy stretch? Or are we watching one of the most dangerous young lead guards in college basketball turn into a real long-term star? Because right now, the hype is starting to get loud. And honestly, it should. Just over the last few weeks, Acuff has ripped off a monster run. 31 points against Auburn, 49 against Alabama, 20 against Missouri, 22 against Texas A&M, and 17 even in a blowout loss to Florida. This is not random, this is not one lucky heater. That is a freshman guard grabbing the keys to a ranked SEC team and making it impossible to ignore him. But if you really want to understand how good he is, you gotta rewind. Because Darius Acuff Jr. did not come out of nowhere. He's from Detroit, and before the national rankings and the five-star hype, he was already winning. At Cass Tech, he helped lead the program to its first boys basketball state title as a sophomore. And in that title game, he had 19 points and 4 assists, even before the national spotlight fully found him. He was already proving he could show up in big moments. And that matters, because with young guards, people always want to know the same thing. Could you do it when the game gets bigger? For Acuff, that answer has been yes at basically every stop. After Cass Tech, he moved to IMG Academy, and that's where his rise really went national. Arkansas's official bio says that as a junior at IMG, he averaged 20.4 points and 5.5 assists per game, helped the team go 20-9, and finished number 6 in the final Max Preps poll. On top of that, he led EYBL Scholastic in scoring at 21.4 per game, while ranking second in assists at 3.7. That's important because IMG is not some place where you can just bully weaker competition and fool scouts. That's one of the top prep environments in the country, and Acuff didn't just fit in there, he stood out. Then came the USA basketball stage, which is where hype either gets exposed or gets confirmed. At the 2024 FIBA U18 America Cup, Acuff started all 6 games for Team USA, averaging a team best 17.5 points plus 4.7 rebounds and 4.0 assists, and left the tournament as the MVP and a member of the All-Star 5. Team USA won gold, and Acuff was one of the biggest reasons why. So, by the time he signed with Arkansas, this was not a sleeper story. This was a real recruiting win. ESPN listed him as a top 10 recruit and the number 1 point guard in the 2025 class. That's elite company. But being a great high school guard and being a great SEC freshman are two completely different things. And this is where Acuff gets really interesting, because a lot of 5-star guards need time. A lot of them flash talent, but the efficiency is messy. A lot of them can score but can't run offense. A lot of them can look explosive, but they're not yet winning players. Acuff, he's already producing like a star. Though this season he's sitting at 22.2 points, 3.1 rebounds, and 6.2 assists per game, while shooting 49.9% from the floor. That is elite shot volume. That is real playmaking. And for a freshman lead guard, that's scary. Now here's the part that really matters. What makes Darius Acuff Jr. this good? First, he can flat out create his own shot. This is the first thing that jumps out when you watch him. He has the kind of scoring game that travels. He can get downhill, he can pull up, and once he gets rolling, he has the confidence to start putting defenders in impossible situations. And the proof is in the game log. He had 31 points with 7 threes against Auburn in a huge win. Then he dropped 49 points against Alabama, including the game-tying 3 that forced overtime. ESPN highlighted that performance immediately because, well, freshmen are not supposed to do that in games that big. Then he followed it with 20 against Missouri and 22 against Texas A&M, including 17 of those 22 in the final 9 minutes against the Aggies. That tells you something huge. He's not just piling up points, he's scoring when the game is hanging in the balance. That is a completely different kind of scorer. Second, he's more of a point guard than people might think. When a young guard puts up scoring numbers like this, the easiest label is score first combo guard. But Acuff's 6.2 assists per game say otherwise. That's not accidental. That means he's already creating offense for other people at a high level, while carrying a massive scoring load himself. And for projecting guards, that is one of the biggest green flags you can have. It's one thing to get buckets. It's another thing entirely to bend the defense so hard that you can score and organize the offense. That's what separates fun scorer from real lead guard. Third, he looks built for big moments. This is one of the most important traits for any young star, and honestly, it might be the most entertaining part of Acuff's rise. Because at every level, when the spotlight gets brighter, he tends to lean into it instead of shrinking. State title at Cass Tech, MVP at the U18 AmeriCup, freshman scoring record at Arkansas with that 49-point explosion against Alabama. That pattern matters. Some players are talented, some players are talented and fearless. Those are very different things, and Acuff looks like the second type. Now, if this were just a hype video, we'd stop there and call him the next great guard. But that's not how this works, because the real question is not just what he does well, it's what still needs to tighten up. And yes, there are real concerns. The first concern is shot selection and balance. When you are this gifted as a scorer, it can be easy to fall in love with your own offense. That's normal for a young elite guard. The upside is obvious. He can take over games. The trade-off is that the next step in his development is learning exactly when to attack, when to slow down, and when to make the simpler read. Right now, he already has the production. The next level is control. And for guards, that's usually the difference between high-level scorer and elite floor general. The second concern is NBA projection. At 6'3", 190 pounds, Acuff has solid size for a guard, but he's not some giant oversized creator who can just see over everything. So, the long-term question is simple. When the defenders get bigger, longer, and more athletic, does his shot creation still scale the same way? That doesn't mean he can't do it just means that for smaller lead guards, the margin for error gets tighter. The handle has to be sharper, the reads have to be quicker, the shot making has to stay real. And to be fair to Acuff, the early signs are encouraging because he's already doing this in the SEC as a freshman. The third concern is defensive consistency. This is less about whether he can compete and more about what his ceiling really is on that end. Offensively, the star flashes are obvious. Defensively, the question isn't whether he becomes a guard teams can live with, a guard teams trust, or eventually a guard who gives you extra value. And if he wants to become a true top-tier long-term lead guard prospect, that's a huge swing skill, because the offensive foundation is already there. Now here's the fun part. Even with those concerns, the thing that should make people pay attention is this. Every single time the competition has gone up, Acuff has still found a way to produce. He produced in Michigan, he produced at IMG, he produced for Team USA, and now he's producing in the SEC as a freshman. That is the exact pattern you want to see from a young guard, because a lot of players look elite in one setting. The truly special ones keep scaling upward, and Acuff has done that over and over again. So, how good is Darius Acuff Jr. actually? I think Darius Acuff Jr. is a great player. Not just a talented freshman, not just a hot scorer, but a real high-level guard with the kind of game that should translate well to the NBA. He already looks like one of the most dangerous freshman guards in the country, and more importantly, he looks like a true lead guard talent, not just a flashy scorer putting up numbers. The scoring is real, the playmaking is real, and the confidence he plays with is exactly what you want from a player who's going to have the ball in his hands at the next level. And in my opinion, he's going to do well in the NBA. Yes, there are still areas he can tighten up, game management, decision-making, defensive consistency, but that's normal for a freshman. The foundation is already there, and it's a strong one, and honestly, that's what makes this so exciting. He's already this productive, and he's still just a freshman. So now the real debate starts. Is Darius Acuff Jr. already one of the best guards in college basketball? Or do you still need to see more before you buy all the way into the hype? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more basketball stories and breakdowns.